Dude,
then?
I don't know.
Okay,
I'm trying
okay.
to
I'm just
figure
curious.
it out.
I was just curious.
It wasn't like I was figuring out that I'm gay and then I started to hate my body. I started to hate my body while I realized that I was gay. Look at the porn stars and everything that you see
Don't
online.
look at the porn stars.
Well,
This is a family podcast.
hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Who's Your Daddy podcast, where it's our job to educate and explore all the different paths to parenthood, adoption, foster to adopt, surrogacy, and all of those things. We are your hosts and husbands, Michael and Matt, and today we are going to be talking about something a little bit different, something that is not an alternative path to parenthood, but we're going to talk about body image and body dysmorphia, how that relates to us. And really, I think what it comes down to is like, what are we going to teach our children about this? And how are we going to address those things within ourselves and within our families?
Yeah. So do you have the definition you said?
I do have the definition.
Okay. Let's lay out what it is first and then we'll go from there.
Perfect.
Because I don't know that like technical definition. I know like what it is, but I think sometimes we have in our head like a certain thing and then we read a definition and we're like, oh, that's like a little bit different than what I thought.
That is understandable. Yes. Body dysmorphia disorder. Looked it up on Google. It's also called BDD. A mental illness involving obsessive focus on a perceived flaw in appearance. The flaw may be minor or imagined, but the person may spend hours a day trying to fix it. The person may try many cosmetic procedures or exercise to excess. Treatment can help, but this condition can't be cured. It requires a medical diagnosis, lab tests or imaging not required. It's chronic. So we can go into things like appearance, causes, diagnosis, the types of body dysmorphia, all that. But really, this is more of a conversation of kind of like why we experience it. And I don't know. I have this question of why is it so prevalent in the LGBTQ plus community? And this has been a topic. If you do follow us on Instagram, you've seen me talk about this quite openly within my own life. And it's been a topic that's been more and more prevalent in my mind as of recent. And so I think when it comes down to is I've always struggled with body dysmorphia, but I haven't been able to put words to it or really like I haven't been able to address it head on until recently, to where I'm starting to like realize, oh, these are the symptoms and the things I'm actually experiencing. And this is a problem.
So when do you think you first like that became a thought or like a thought process in your head of like, this is really wrong or this feels really bad or like, I don't know. Do you remember?
Man, I don't know. I have to take a step back because I'm feeling nervous talking about this, honestly, right now.
I would like to preface that like, these are, I don't want to cheapen anybody's, official like diagnosis. And I think that there are different levels, obviously, of any disorder. So, I think there can be different levels of body dysmorphia, right? Like,
right.
I think some people might have a more, I don't want to say like severe, but like, I think again, there's
just
different
with a lot
levels.
of conditions. I mean, you take anxiety, you take depression, you take all kinds
different levels
of mental illnesses and disorders and conditions, and there's a whole spectrum that people may experience.
Right.
And I think what I've found with myself is I'm not like completely destroyed by this disorder all the time, but it is something prevalent in my life that I've dealt with for, I don't know, years and years and years and years and years since before I came out, since the moment I thought I was gay.
When did you think that like the term body dysmorphia like aligned with what you were feeling?
I think I've ignored the term body dysmorphia for a very long time because I'm not considered to be overweight, or people look at me and they don't consider me to look fat.
I don't think that's like a
right. I know.
That's not a parameter at all, right?
No, it's not. That's the thing. Is like But for the longest time, I think I paired the two together, and in order, I thought in order to have body dysmorphia, I had to be obese or severely overweight. And that's just not true. And I looked at, like, of course you learn about bulimia, anorexia,
Right.
eating disorders in school.
But this is like, yeah, and this is completely like different.
They can
But they can
definitely-
coincide.
They can coincide. They can correlate.
Because an eating like you could have a flaw, but it has nothing to do with your weight, correct? Like it could be on your face. Like you could
Right.
obsess
Yeah.
over some flaw that's on your face, and you get, like, that definition said, like, surgery, right? Like cosmetics to like fix it. So it's not always correlated, but I'm sure that they can be, right?
At least in my case, it's more so to do with body tone, fat, or excess fat in different areas of my body, and like this constant comparison that I hold, and an impossible standard that I hold myself to when I look at like what popular culture in the gay world considers the ideal male physique, and seeing that my body doesn't match up to that.
And I think that could go for like most of the male world, right? I don't even know if I think it's prevalent in the gay world. There's a lot
I think it's way more prevalent in the gay world than in the straight world.
Yeah.
For men specifically.
Yeah, I think if you look at like
cisgender,
the cover of like Men's Health, though,
Right.
like that's not a gay magazine. That's not like focused towards like the LGBTQ community.
Totally.
It's always like a ripped, like just jacked man on the front of it. So
yeah,
I think that this is more prevalent probably amongst the gay community, or we talk about it more maybe. I don't know. Does that feel true?
I think we talk about it not seriously. I think we talk about it in a sexual way. I think
body dysmorphia?
No. Just bodies in general.
I've heard a lot of talk about unrealistic body standards.
Yes.
Which, again, I think psych sort of things are so like kind of nebulous, right? In some ways, where it's like unrealistic body standards doesn't always mean body dysmorphia, right?
Right. But like I said, it's a spectrum.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
It can blend together. So
yeah,
I don't know. I became aware of myself being different or feeling different from other people. I would say all the way back fifth grade, elementary school is when I started to experience feelings of inadequacy amongst my peers. And this is like so bizarre and weird because like I hadn't even hit puberty yet, but I was noticing differences. Like I'm a little bit shorter than some of the males in my class, or most of the males in my class. I felt like I had a little bit of this is crazy. My mind is playing right now as I'm trying to talk about it. My mind is having so many defenses come up and like try to like warn me like this isn't that's not right, that's not normal. Like I'm actively trying to talk about this, and it's like my mind doesn't want to.
It's trying to shut it down.
Yeah. So I'm sorry if I'm a little bit everywhere, but I'm trying to like talk through it. Like, yeah, as a fifth grader, I viewed my tummy and I was like, oh, it's a little bit chubby. It's not flat like some of the other kids in my class.
Yeah.
A fifth grader.
Well, and I don't think I know some people go through like chubby stages, or you know, like
Right, yeah.
they have an increased BMI or body mass, or like, you know, they look different visibly. You can tell that they go through like a little heavier stage and then they slim down. I don't think you had like, I think you were just sort of like pretty consistently a relatively not skinny kid, but like
I was a skinny kid. Very skinny.
I don't think you
But
never went through like a
no, I was never overweight.
a change, right?
Right.
Like,
No. Yeah, my body was consistently. I had very thin arms, very thin legs, very little muscle tone.
very cute skinny legs.
Thank you, Michael. Very little muscle tone in comparison to other kids in my class.
Sure.
I didn't play football. I didn't play basketball. I wasn't very sporty. And so I was never considered one of the guys that was playing sports. And in fifth grade, even though this is like a very young age, that's when like people in my class started to date and have boyfriends and girlfriends. And yes, it was cute and little, but then like, I don't know, even in sixth grade, people were like making out with each other and like weird things like that. And I don't know if that's normal.
It's not, because girls have cooties, and that is disgusting.
I don't know if that's normal in middle schools everywhere, but people were being like sexually active in sixth grade, seventh grade.
You know what? I I don't actually know what that was like in my middle school. I was like clearly not. My girlfriends in middle school, we like said that we were dating, and then we'd like wave at each other as we passed in the hallway,
Right. Yeah.
and never kiss.
I mean, and that was kind of my experience too. But again, like
There may have been some other factors at play there, but
again, I'm looking at my experience
yeah.
and I'm seeing that it's vastly different from my peers. And what I'm noticing is that my body is different, that my relationships with girls is different, that I'm not doing the same things that they're doing, and I'm not interested in the same things that they are.
You have no urge. Like, you know, you're like,
right.
Like, why are they wanting to date and kiss girls? Like, that's
and at the
weird.
same time, I'm feeling compelled to like spend time with the other boys in my class. Like I wanted to hang around them longer. I wanted a best friend. I didn't really feel the need to have a girlfriend, but I so wanted a best friend more than anything. I would like cry myself to sleep at night because I didn't have
What was your friend group like?
My friend group, like I'm saying, I mean, like they were sexually active at a young age. They were
No, but were there like, was it like a big group of people? Was it like, were they like sporty, or were you like never in a group? Were you like kind of with band kids or choir kids?
No.
Or
I was definitely
jocks?
like, I mean, if you consider the sporty / leadership popular group in your class, that's kind of the kids that I would hang around because I considered myself to be a part of that group. However, I didn't really feel like I fit in or belonged in there because I wasn't the guy that all the guys were going after to hang out with, because I wasn't considered to be like the big jock on the team or whatever. Like, I don't know. I didn't have that masculine draw that bros like to hang out with bros, kind of thing.
You know,
So I was viewed differently by the men in my
trying
class.
to just suck up
By the
each
boys
other's
in my class.
masculinity.
Yeah, exactly. So I was viewed differently by the boys in my class, and I didn't feel like I fit into that. And then I was also viewed differently by the girls in my class because they didn't look at me as dating material so much. I was more of a friend. And obviously, like, all of this makes sense is because I'm freaking gay. But like at the time, all I'm doing is noticing like how different I am from all of them, and how I didn't really belong in. I didn't know where I belonged in either situation, and continually looking at myself in the mirror and thinking, I don't fit into them, to this group. I'm chubbier. I'm not good at sports. Like, I can't run as fast. All these different things. And so I think that just built up as I continued to build resentment towards my sexuality. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, this whole thing with body dysmorphia, the two coincided together. Like, it wasn't like I was figuring out that I'm gay and then I started to hate my body.
Right.
I started to hate my body while I realized that I was gay. And the two kind of played off of each other. So I don't know. That's a big point that I want to make early on, is because that's something that I don't think I realized for most of my life until recently, that my body dysmorphia comes from the repression that I went through as I figured out that I was gay. And it was because I didn't accept myself. I didn't accept my sexuality. And I had to hide the most important parts of myself from everybody around me. And that included what my body looked like. So I developed a fear of taking off my shirt around other people because I didn't want them to see what was underneath my shirt. Just like I didn't want them to see my sexuality or anything that was like really actually me. All I wanted them to see was what I could fully control. If I had my shirt on, I was in control. Nothing scared me more than having to, like, play shirts and skins in football or basketball or something at gym class. Like, okay, this side's shirts, this side's skins. I hated that.
Yeah. I feel like I mean, I remember in middle school feeling like different, I think, in the sense of attractions, or like not really knowing, like kind of maybe being attracted to girls, but then like, oh, that boy's like, maybe if we kissed, that would be fun. But I don't necessarily remember having like huge body. Like I didn't have that. I didn't have that experience.
I just consider you to be very lucky that you didn't feel that way.
I don't think I mean, I don't think anyone like ever sort of like feels they're at their peak, you know, or like feel the best about their body. Maybe some people do, and that's awesome. But even people who I know who are very fit, like wildly just jacked, ripped, always like kind of want more sometimes. Um, and I don't know. I mean, sure, like I think there's part of me that's like, oh, it'd be nice if like my chest was bigger and if like maybe my legs fit into jeans a little easier. And like I'm the weird one who like kind of wants like smaller legs. And some people are like, why would you ever want that?
Right. I know.
It's just,
I'm like,
you just want what you don't have.
boggled.
You just want what you don't have. I wouldn't say it was at the level of like, I don't feel like I'm in my body or like I'm not obsessing, you know, over it or trying to obsessively fix something. My biggest insecurity in middle school was my eyebrows because people called them caterpillars.
What?
Yeah, they were so mean.
Oh, I
Yeah.
remember in middle school, one of my best friends signed my yearbook, and I had a crush on this friend at the time, and I mean, she's amazing, love her. We're in middle school, so I can't put any blame towards her in the sense, but she put in my yearbook and signing it, she was like, "You are cool, but do sports." LOL.
Like, but do
But
sports.
do sports.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but to me it was a gut punch because I knew, I mean, I wasn't one of the other guys in the class that was doing sports, and I just wasn't athletic or a sporty figure.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of confirmation again.
And you weren't like a band nerd.
No, I wasn't.
See, I was a band kid.
Right.
And I think that's where like maybe the difference was.
I was
I
like,
kind of had the band thing going.
yeah. And so maybe you felt
there was
more
like
accepted in your group.
or there was
in
like
that
a group
sense.
that I was maybe a part of, at least, you know. If you were like really awesome at band,
And you knew people
you
who
weren't
were
necessarily like expected to do sports.
You had people in your class that were out growing up. I didn't have anybody that was out in my class.
Yeah. Two
So,
of my really good friends.
I mean, maybe that's a big difference too, because you had other people who were out. So it kind of, I don't know if it took the sting off of it a little bit. If you're like noticing that in yourself and you're like, okay, there's other people who are modeling this that I'm friends with, and it's okay. They're living an okay life. As opposed to me, where it just felt like a big mystery, and like there was no one else. I had no one else to look to be like, oh, that person's gay and they're out and they're living a normal life. I just knew like that is like the worst of the worst. If I ever come out, then I'm going to just.
That's like one of the most mind-blowing things between us, like me growing up in a town of like 7,000 people.
And me growing up in a town of 50,000 people.
And like I knew 2 or 3 out people
that you were friends with, like close
middle
with.
school, high school, who were like, yeah, my best friends. They were in my friend group. It was like my best friend group.
Yeah, and
I
didn't have
you
anyone
knew 0 people in your entire high school that were out?
until like senior year, towards the end. But I'm talking about like middle school.
No,
all
I
the way
know.
up through.
Wow.
So obviously this is a big issue that a lot of people experience, and it's not talked about enough. I asked on Instagram about this topic and like if we could possibly bend into this topic for an episode, explore it a little bit instead of just talking about all of the baby things. And 93% of you said, heck yes, please talk about this.
Yeah.
That's kind of incredible. I've never run a poll on Instagram where I got 93% of people say like agreeing on one option.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that surprised me most was when I first posted, I posted a couple times, maybe 2 or 3 years ago about this, just here and there. And the response has always been pretty overwhelming. A lot of people will comment back and send messages in and say things like, oh my God, I feel exactly like you do. Nobody talks about this. I didn't understand why I felt this way about my body until you started talking about it. And that's kind of how I've been feeling, is this discovery of like, oh shit, I have a problem. yes, I have anxiety, I have depression, but this is something that is a driving factor behind both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think to me, it's like trying to figure out the issue behind these symptoms or issues that I do experience on a day-to-day basis. So when I first posted this year about my body dysmorphia, I put up a post and I was sharing comments from people online who have said things about my body, which, you know, ranges from like, you look skinny fat, or Matt got fat, haha, you know, just little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the concept of like, oh, just ignore the comments, don't pay them any attention. It's not good for you to dwell on those things. But I think it's so important to point out that for some reason our culture, even other gay people, find it so important to comment on these things and to point it out. And it just reiterates like why I feel so strongly about body dysmorphia, and I feel so strongly about this because like it's an unspoken epidemic, and I think for millions of people, having to stand up to this unattainable standard
Mm-hmm.
is causing so much anxiety and depression amongst our community. It's ridiculous.
I think it also leads to a lot of unhealthy habits.
Oh,
You know,
100%.
people. Well, I mean, it could lead into
Anorexia
disordered
and
eating,
for sure.
diets that don't work,
Which I've definitely had my fair share in
mm-hmm.
trying different things. I know I was like doing the fasting thing for a long time in nursing school, where I just wouldn't eat until I felt like I was going to pass out, and then I would start eating. But then I would like binge eat at night,
Right.
and it was awful.
Just like the worst time to do it for
yeah.
for anybody. But I think the focus a lot of times is attaining a body that you might not be like genetically predisposed to, instead of like being healthy and, you know, eating a balanced diet with like fruits and vegetables, instead of just like juicing your way into weight loss because just drinking juice will make you lose weight. Or
Yeah, I get that. I've done the paleo diet. I've done, yeah, I think in college there was a few months where I wasn't eating any carbs that I could.
what was that like?
No grains, at least. I wasn't eating grains. I was eating blueberries and strawberries and salads.
You like
and
kind of liked it or no?
I did, yeah. I liked it because I was trimming weight off around my middle and starving for most of the day, which made me also feel a little bit more energetic because I was always hungry.
That made you feel more energetic.
It made me more like aware
Mm.
of, you know, because I didn't feel full. I didn't feel like I had to take a nap or something, you know, something like that. It was
Yeah,
more
that's
like
true.
I was probably dehydrated and exhausted most of the time, but
Oh my
like
gosh.
kind of that energy high where I'm just running on caffeine
I have
and
never-
no food.
I've never committed to anything like that for more than maybe a week or like a couple days.
No, I was paleo for like a year.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Nothing to say, honestly, though, like nothing to necessarily downplay about paleo, because I think there's some sort of like ancestral thought behind it, right? Like,
Right. But
what
if
did
you're
our
not eating
ancestors
enough
eat?
and you're
Oh,
starving
yeah, you need to eat
yourself,
enough.
then it's
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, college was a whole nother. It was just a continuation of this doubt I had in myself and my body, but all of it was in the back of my mind. I wasn't allowing these thoughts and feelings to come to the forefront of my mind and actually address them. I wouldn't look at it. I just thought, I'm looking at it like very plainly. I look in the mirror and I say, okay, I got some extra fat around the middle. That's not okay. And that's something I can cut out. I need to work out more. I need to eat less. It's not healthy. And that's that.
Mm-hmm.
And not only is this extremely judgmental on myself, but I'm also judging other people. Like, plainly put.
Because they have something that you attain to, or they are quote unquote like less fit than you, or both.
I think
or,
both.
Yeah.
I've been hyper aware of other people's bodies.
Mm.
and constantly comparing their bodies to mine and either using that as fuel to make myself feel better about myself or using it as a way to put myself down and to like want to.
Do you have any
strive towards
strategies to like try and not do that?
that. I don't know. I'm learning. Man,
Is there like self-talk? Like, what can you tell yourself in that situation?
years of therapy for one, but they're thinking errors. Like I'm hyper focusing on one thing. That's not okay. Comparison, I'm focusing on comparisons and putting myself down, exaggerating. These are all things that
Do you know that in the moment?
no, usually it's afterwards, and then you're kind of like analyzing why do I feel so down.
Then you have to go back
And you have to go back and think
retroactively and think,
yeah. Sometimes if I'm lucky,
retrace your steps.
yes, and sometimes I can catch myself in the moment. This is especially important for times at the gym. God, this happens so much, and it happens still. I'll go to the gym and I don't like going to the gym. I have a hard time of it. I'm just so many negative associations with me going to the gym, but I do it because, well, for one, I started paying a trainer 2 years ago. That's like my biggest expense in life.
No comment.
Besides surrogacy, I'd say it's the biggest expense for my expendable income.
Right.
That is, I don't eat out a lot. I buy groceries with coupons. Like I try to save as much money as I possibly can.
We've actually done so much better at that in the last since beginning of this year probably.
Yeah, but then I take all like as much income as I can to put towards the personal training because I recognized a few years ago like I'm not going to the gym on my own because I hate it and I'm scared to go. And I need to be financially like I need to bribe myself financially in order to like make it to the gym.
Money's a motivator.
Money's a motivator on it.
I mean, I think that's fair.
If
Obviously,
I'm already paying for it, I want to make sure I go and show up. I'm very good if I'm like given direction or if somebody tells me you have to go do this. So having a trainer that's like, you have to go do this or come and show up because you're paying me anyway. That's a big motivator and helper for me. And just being able to put on my calendar.
What else helps when you're at the gym? Like if you're not there with a trainer because you go by yourself sometimes.
Well,
just like turn your music up and like don't look around or like.
I mean, yes, I wanted to talk about
have a plan.
I wanted to talk about that though, because when I do go to the gym, even if I'm with my trainer, there's all kinds of people there, and a lot of the people that you see at the gym are those who go more frequently than the general population.
In your like lens. Well, no, I mean, okay.
You're more likely to see people at the gym
who go there frequently.
Go to the gym.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
So when I'm at the gym, I'm looking around. I see a lot of people who can lift a lot more weight than me, and who are a lot bigger than me, and who have a lot of muscles. Some of them are attractive. I notice that. Some of them are just muscular, and that I'm not personally attracted to. But I'm like, oh my god, you're like so buff, and you're lifting so much weight. Yeah, bro. But like also I start to feel self-conscious about myself and what I'm doing because I'm struggling. I'm sweating. I'm trying to lift the weight. I don't know if my form's exactly right. I'm asking my trainer, like, is my form okay? Am I doing okay? Which like you've worked out with me before. It's a big thing that I do. I am constantly asking like, am I doing this right?
Yeah. We tried to work out together for a little bit.
It doesn't work very
and then
well.
He just ends up not liking me. And then I get annoyed and yeah, I'm like, just do what I do. And he's like, I don't like doing that. So we decided solo workouts.
I remember one particular day, it was a leg day, and I was on one of the leg machines doing a quad workout or something. And it was so difficult for me to get the weights up. And I was trying and I wasn't completing my full set. And I've done that weight before, but today, for whatever reason, I just couldn't. And I'm looking around and I'm seeing, somebody on the bench press put on a plate on each side. It's like 45 pounds on each side plus the bar, which is way more than I can lift on the bench press. and just start like pumping it out and just going like fast with the bench press. And I'm thinking to myself, what is so wrong with me that I can't do that? Like, why am I so inept and unable to lift weights like these other men in here?
Why? Why do you think?
Well, because my mind goes to I'm weak, I'm different, I'm not good enough, and I'm never going to fit into this community or group of people.
Yeah, I think that's...
And it brings me right back to like middle school.
Do you ever just like think about just like physiology, like basic physiology? Like, oh, they have different muscle fibers and different
Of course, but like, what does that matter if I'm looking at somebody and thinking...
That's what I think.
Well, I understand that, but that's not like necessarily comforting.
I guess to me it is.
That's not comforting to me. It's not a good enough excuse to be like, oh yeah, my body's built differently.
But that's the reason. Like, I can't run 8 miles, right? Like, we'll go out and go running, and I usually don't run with Matthew because he's very fast and can just go and run forever. And I'm like toast. My body takes so much longer to train long distances. But I'm like, well, that's just my body's just different. I have a physiology like background, or at least my schooling, right? I go through physiology. I learned about muscle fibers.
It's just not it's not helpful though. That's not helpful. That's not the issue.
Well, it's helpful for me.
I know. I
I'm just saying it's helpful for me.
And that's
so it
great.
Could be helpful for somebody else.
Possibly.
So I was just curious if
But I think the people who really struggle with body dysmorphia, most of us, I don't think that's helpful.
Okay, maybe.
It's not, because it's like you have blinders on.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to discredit. I'm just saying,
I have a background in physiology too, but
right,
my brain doesn't really recognize that. So I hear what you're saying, and it totally logically makes sense, but nothing about body dysmorphia is logical. I'm looking at the mirror and I'm seeing a completely functional body, and I'm noticing these very tiny things where there's nothing actually wrong with it, and pinpointing like a problem and saying that's a problem. I'm not good enough.
So
I failed myself.
How do you reframe it,
dude?
then?
I don't know.
Okay,
I'm trying to figure it out.
I was just curious.
That's why we're talking about it. It was like, yeah, I just how do I reframe it? For one, I feel so much better for sharing about this online. Like, I think that's what started to push the needle forward and get me to like actually address what's going on. Because I think how I'd address it before is just push it down, push the feelings down, ignore it. I'm not going to pay attention to it. Because yeah, I think what you're saying, the logic of it is your body's different. You should just accept that and understand and be okay with it, or see the value that you have in there. And I appreciate that, but that's kind of like my previous defense mechanism of, oh yeah, my body's different. Okay, cool. Push it down. Not addressing the feelings. Keep going. I'm going to keep working out. And then I'm going to go home and try to forget about it. And I do that over and over and over again. But then when a situation comes out, when someone asks me, do you want to go to this club? It's underwear night. Like, let's put on mesh and mesh shirts and whatever. Let's take our shirts off and go swimming. We're going to go dancing together. Let's go work out. My heart rate goes up. I start freaking out. I get nervous. I make excuses so I don't have to go. And I get angry. I get upset. My mood changes. And it's because of this, like, I just go into an absolute panic thinking about putting myself in situations where people are going to be able to see my body and see that it's different from others, and that it's not this perfect representation of the gay male physique. And I go on Instagram, I go on Facebook, I work on social media. I see this stuff all the time. Go to your explore page and scroll and see all the bodies on there. Do you see any bodies that look like yours? No.
Yeah.
Look at the porn stars and everything that you see
Don't
online.
Look at the porn stars.
Well,
this is a family podcast.
Go to your explore page. You're going to see porn stars.
Sure.
They're not going to be doing porn, but they're going to be doing something close to it.
Not everybody has the same explore page as us, but if you're gay, a gay cis male, probably similar.
Right. Yes. And at least from what I'm seeing from my DMs and everything like that, this is a very like huge problem for people like me that we're dealing with. I think this issue transcends all people groups in different ways, and I'm speaking about this particularly from my viewpoint. And so I do, yes, I'm trying to like.
Do you think most of this is the story you tell yourself or the story that you hear from others? Or is it 50-50? So you telling yourself that you feel different, you look different, or like from earlier, like the comments of people saying
This is 100% myself.
You think 100% is just,
or like 99.9%.
What about the outside world is not playing a factor?
Okay, that's different. I'm thinking the words. When I see comments and things like that, when people say specific things to me, that doesn't really faze me.
Really?
I don't think so, at least. Because
is it that thing where like you've told yourself this already? Like you can't tell me anything about myself because I've already said it about myself or something? Or no?
I've seen the responses to my posts and people say, I can't believe anyone would say that to you. Like, don't listen to any of those words, or that's unimaginable that somebody would ever think that. They're crazy to think that. And my response to that is, it's nothing compared to the things that I've said to myself or to the things that I think about myself.
Yeah, or to you, you're like, oh, of course they would say that. Or like to you, you're like, oh, well, I've been thinking that or saying that to myself. And so like
those hateful comments are going easy on it from like comparatively with what I think and say about myself. So like that's not, it just, I look at it and I'm like, okay, it doesn't do anything to me. It's when people compliment me and say nice things about my body that I get shocked and confused. I still am like boggled to this day of like, and this is so weird because you're my husband, but like, what do you even see in me that's attractive that I don't understand? And it's the same thing when other people say that I look cute or attractive, or, you know, they compliment me on something of my body and I just don't really believe them. And I'm trying to like believe them more and more, or figure out how to
accept compliments,
see some kind of truth in it. And I want to get there where I can like truly feel proud of my body and feel those compliments full on, and not just continually lie and say, yeah, thank you. I see what you see. I don't know. I'm like mostly inspired to open up and talk about this a little bit more because of the messages that I've received on Instagram about this in particular. And the most surprising thing to me is when I first started talking about it is how many people responded and were saying how much they felt the same. And I didn't think that there was anyone out there within the gay community who felt exactly like I do.
It's so interesting because I would assume that there are
most of us do.
A lot of people who would share that.
Well, people don't talk about it, and they don't share they don't share that it's an actual struggle, a day-to-day struggle, something that they deal with constantly. And I'm saying this is something that I deal with every single day. Sorry for cussing. And I have to figure out how to live with it. So it really affects me like on a day-to-day basis. Like I still don't like looking in the mirror. I don't like looking in the mirror in the bathroom. We have a mirror in the bathroom and I don't like looking in it.
I'll break it.
No, don't break the mirror.
Oh, okay.
It's good for me to practice looking at it because I should be able to see myself and try to find value in that and make, I have to force a smile and try to give myself an affirmation and keep going. So one of these messages that I got it from somebody that I know, and this person I would say has like the ideal gay body, like
really,
the stereotype, just 6-pack, huge muscles, beautiful, so good looking. You would look at this person and think like they have got to have it all. And this one really hit home because when I got this message, it came out of nowhere and I just didn't expect it at all. And it kind of changed my thinking on how people experience body dysmorphia. Because I just thought that once you get to a certain point with your musculature, you're over it. once you get a six pack, you feel better about your body. I always thought, like once I get there, once I get to the body that I want, I won't have to deal with this anymore. So they said, friend, I didn't want to ride it home with you because when I've brought it up before, it's never viewed as legitimate feelings because of how I represent myself online. But yes, I've had the darkest, lowest moments relating to my body and weight gain. Losing weight now, again, for like the 5th time in my life. I've had to go through this cycle. I'm honestly so tired, but in a way, it's a goal. And reaching that goal every time does feel very rewarding. Ironically, even when my body was the best it's ever been, I still found taking photos of my body hard because of my eye for imperfections. So it's more about a change of perception than a change in how your body looks.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter how amazing you make your body look by working out a ton, going on these crazy diets, taking steroids, supplements, whatever. If your mind is still fixed in that way of finding imperfections and figuring out how you can overcompensate to mask your gayness or your queerness, because that's what it is. I mean, like, I was so self-conscious about my body growing up because I was gay, and I wanted to hide that, and I wanted to figure out how could I blend in with the rest of the people in my group so that they didn't suspect me being gay. And this was a defense mechanism that I developed at a young age, and that defense mechanism was never broken. I continued it all the way through high school into adulthood. And even now, I have this hyper perfectionism when it comes to my body and how I'm perceived by other people. And so because of that, I look in the mirror and I see imperfections and I see things that maybe are different from other bodies that I see, especially if you add social media into it and the way that bodies are put up on social media. You see the same body, the same physique over and over and over again.
Is it like, so it's like a dual like acceptance thing? Like, will I be accepted if I'm gay? Probably not. So like that's bad. And then like my body's not perfect, and that's like part of being accepted. Like if I looked the way that other people looked, people would accept me, and I would be part of the group, and I would be
yes, and I would
right,
and I would accept and love myself too.
Yeah.
So it's
kind of a dual thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's overcompensation for being self-conscious about your sexuality. It's overcompensation because of being self-conscious about your body. Mm-hmm. And those things are interrelated and tied together, and they coincide. And so it's like, yeah, I came out as gay 10 years ago, but I'm still living this life where I am continually trying to overcompensate and be a perfectionist and be better than everyone else so that everyone will freaking love me and that I'll freaking love myself. And that's like where it's at. But if you ever fall short of whatever this perfectionistic, unattainable standard is, which you will ultimately do, then the consequences are you hate yourself. You're pissed off that you didn't make it. You're not good enough. Like, why weren't you stronger or better or fitter? Like, I feel like I'm playing this game where, I'm still in middle school trying to just fit in. But for what? But how do we, I don't know. I love the quote from RuPaul.
How are you going to love someone if you can't love yourself?
Exactly. That's it. If you can't love yourself, how in the hell you gonna love somebody else?
Yeah, that's what it is. Sorry.
Yeah. So I love that because it's true. And I think like in our relationship, there's been so many instances where issues have come up and it's related back to depression, anxiety, stemming from body dysmorphia, all of this. So to me, I'm like, I love you and I want to love you better and learn how to be a better husband. And I want to be a good dad. And I think all of that starts with figuring out my mental health and how I can address body dysmorphia and figure out ways to deal with it and work through it and better cope with it and learn to love myself better so I can love everyone else in my life better.
I like that.
Yeah. The whole question to end this podcast with is, how are we going to teach our kids to love themselves and to love their bodies? And that's what I want to kind of leave with. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think a lot of people's self-talk, when stuff like this comes up is, like, look what my body can do, and like, look what it is doing, and look how abled I am, right? Not to say like pity the people who are, not as able as me, or who are wheelchair bound, or like can't see, or are deaf, or whatever, like things like that. But just appreciating, like, there's a lot that I have, and there's a lot that I can do, and there are a lot of barriers that I don't have to go through, or I don't have to deal with.
Practicing gratitude.
Practicing gratitude. Yeah.
It's kind of like an antidote.
Like when we go on a run, not everybody, there's a lot of people who like don't have that luxury because of XYZ. And it's like, wow, that's so cool that my body allows me to go on a run because I'm healthy enough to do that.
Making gratitude a practice and intentionally expressing that's been helpful for me.
Yeah. I think that's maybe just something to like instill in children in a more like upfront way instead of like a reactive way where you wait until they might be experiencing depression or might be experiencing lack of confidence in their bodies, kind of start them off by saying like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing that you did that. Like, you know, like, way to go.
I think you do you do a good job of that with kids too, of encouraging them and providing positive feedback.
And just, I think also just talking about, making kids aware of things that can happen and, things that can happen to your body if you get sick or in an accident, and you never know if one of those things are going to happen. And just really appreciating like what we can do, like that we can use our hands. And I think this also comes from my mom as a speech therapist, and she treated patients that had like traumatic brain injuries and lost their ability to speak, or were paralyzed, or they were paralyzed from here down, and that included their vocal cords or XYZ. I think that there was always an awareness about that. I think I was always taught an awareness of like how able our bodies are, because I think she, had a lot of people that she was helping that weren't as able-bodied.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe where I've sort of tried to practice that gratitude, because I was sort of like told or taught like not everybody's body can do what your body does because of XYZ.
For me, I think one of the important points is just to practice radical acceptance with our kids, in the sense of like, no matter who they are, and it's obvious to us because of the way that we've grown up, but at the same time, like, I think it's just worth noting, like, when you radically accept your child and express that kind of love towards them, that you'll be there for them, that you'll support them, that you'll love them, no matter what they want to do in life, who they want to be, their gender, sexuality, whatever, it does not matter. And being able to start from there, I think is just going to be huge.
And I
hugely
think,
important.
Like exposing them to people or stories or whatever of people who are differently abled, people who are different, people who are, obviously they're going to have gay dads. So there they go. They're going to start off with that, right?
Being intentional about it and being helpful.
Yeah. And just having a general awareness that like not everyone is the same, right? That's like kind of the whole crux of this. It's like, why am I not like him? Because not everybody's the same.
Right.
It's just, and I think I don't know if that's an antidote. Like you can't, I don't think you can start. I don't think you can like predict, right? You can't control, you can't predict, you can't have everything. But I think if you were trying to encourage someone to be more accepting of themselves, of their bodies, introducing them to people who are different, introducing them to thoughts that are different, having them see people who are happy about all the things that they're able to do with their bodies and keeping their bodies healthy and why that's important. I also think there are a lot more books now that are like body focused. Like I remember when we were in Berkeley and there was like a book that was just like, all bodies are good bodies. And I don't think I ever had that book as a kid. So I think
a lot of things have changed since the 90s,
some people are,
the 80s and 90s.
I think some people are just creating content around things that they were like, man, I wish I had something like this when I was growing up. And I'm assuming the author of that book wished they had something like that growing up.
Yeah. So we have a lot more resources now, and I really hope that does make a difference for the next generation.
Yeah.
Because I don't want anyone to be feeling like I feel about it.
Yeah.
And trying to like now, now fix a very broken thought pattern
Mm-hmm.
that was ingrained in me. I need to take ownership of it. Like that is the big thing. Like I have control over this, and there's ways of addressing it and dealing with it, and that starts now. And that starts with like saying, yes, I have a problem. This is a very harmful way of thinking.
Mm.
And so, yeah, like take ownership of it. That's why I feel empowered now and sharing about it on Instagram, on here, because so many people have come up and said, oh my God, I feel the same way. And I just don't think I ever realized. I was so ashamed about how I felt about myself, and it just felt like this big secret that I was continually pushing down and I didn't even want to look at. Kind of like coming out,
Mm-hmm.
you know, kind of like being gay. You push it down and you don't want to look at it. And then when it finally came out, and I was just looking in the mirror, and I could not imagine standing there and hating what I was seeing anymore by myself. I thought, like, this is it. I need to make a decision. Either I'm going to continue living in this hatred. That wasn't even an option. I was like, I cannot just live in this hatred anymore. Like, I was so angry at what I was looking at. I thought, I am done. I'm turning on the lights. I'm like, I can't be in the dark anymore. You know, it's that moment when you are like, you know what? F it. I'm putting it out there. And if the whole world decides that they hate me and they don't want anything to do with me anymore, and I go into oblivion, fine.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's going to be better than standing here and
It's like a second coming out.
living in this hatred anymore. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's what I felt. So after that moment, now I feel like I actually am able to see what is going on and try to fix it. The community of people who also feel the same way that I'm feeling. I don't know. It's support. It's knowing that you're not alone in it. It's that other people are experiencing the same thing, and that it goes far beyond just yourself. So that's helpful. That's nice to know.
What's like the first thing that if you would suggest if somebody's like feeling this way, like what's the first thing to like do? My assumption would be like find someone to talk to.
Yeah, that's not always easy, because you don't know if the person's going to be able to relate or be supportive.
I'm thinking like a special,
Yes,
like a
definitely.
healthcare provider.
That's a big step, of course.
But is that like one of the most helpful things? Is to just like get it off your chest.
Yeah, I think if you can find someone that you know personally and that you can confide with quickly, you know, that's going to be more instantaneous than finding a therapist. Of course, you need to do that too, but I'm saying like in the moment, you know, you're upset, you're looking at yourself, you're like, I feel awful right now. I really need to talk to someone. Then of course, like try to find somebody who you think is going to be receptive to it. Somebody who's close to you, and then also call your provider and try to get hooked up with a therapist. Or Google Maps works too for therapy.
Do you feel a difference like when you've come home, like after going to the gym and being with the trainer? Like, is that therapeutic as well?
It is. Yeah. And I'm feeling like I still have a really hard time in the gym looking at all the different body types and the comparison and that anxiety that rises up in me when I'm there. However, like I'm looking at it more as a practice and an opportunity to go through that for myself. Like it's kind of therapy in and of itself, because it's presenting me with opportunities to fix thought patterns that could be flawed. So yeah, I have these thinking errors that come up when I'm at the gym, when I see a fit and attractive body. My brain will instantly compare, start to feel down on myself, and then I have the opportunity to flip that around and try to correct that thinking by examining like my body is different. This is okay. I'm working on my body and I have the power to do what I need to do with my body. Like I'm in charge. And another thing that's helpful, I think, when I'm at the gym and I'm looking around, is to think like you're there, you made it. That's
step one.
not just step one. That's like 90% there, you know, like that's amazing, because I think when you look around at the gym, you're seeing a lot of people, of course, who are there a lot. And for every person you see at the gym, there's 10 other people who are sitting at home and who don't go to the gym. And so if that helps you, that could be a very helpful point to keep in mind, a little nugget of info, because it'll just
It's like, you made it.
You made it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. Like, celebrate, you know?
But I also know, just from a health perspective, like, you're lowering your chances of diabetes, of coronary heart disease, of like all these things, right? You're
So there's
just
a lot
like,
of benefits to look at. Yeah.
you're doing something that's good for yourself, regardless of whether or not you end up with like these particular results, right? It's just like, I'm going to make my body healthier in the long term. I'm going to be in the hospital less. Like, I don't know. I try and think of those things too, even if I have like a bad workout, because I've had those where I'm like, I just do not think that was great. You know, I'm like, well, my heart rate was up. I did something. Hopefully that's going to help me in the long term feel better, be more active as a dad as we go on through life. And hopefully that's enough.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to end it with this. I feel more seen. I feel more supported. I feel more understood. And I am thankful for this community online that just understands and is able to like relate with what's going on. And I feel like there's a lot to be gained from that for everyone, because there's a lot of stories out there around body dysmorphia, a lot of unspoken stories, and people are starting to whisper about it a little bit more. And I appreciate that.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
I didn't have you.
I didn't know how to respond.
We hope you enjoyed this episode that was a little bit different than kind of the normal content that we put out here, but a lot of people seemed like they wanted to hear about it. So who knows? There's going to be a few episodes like this, hopefully, where we just kind of sprinkle in just some other topics to kind of break it up.
And it's all important stuff, because really it does relate back to how are we going to talk about these things with our kids?
Totally.
So
yeah. Well, until next time.
Daddies
out. Is this the Who's Your Dad Bod podcast now?
Oh my God.